Hey Mustangs, Miss Jones back here with Donovan's Word Jar, and we are on Chapter 9. If you remember, Chapter 8 ended where Donovan went to his grandma's, but she didn't quite have the answer he was looking for. So now it says Donovan's diplomacy. That's a good word, diplomacy. In the elevator, Donovan thought about his word jar. It had taken months, weeks, days, and hours to fill it. Deciding which words to keep was hard. Then Donovan checked the spelling and made sure he understood what each new word meant. What had his grandma been thinking of? It seemed like she wanted him to just give his words away. He loved his word collection, but he had to think of a way to handle it, now that was growing so large. The elevator doors opened and Donovan stepped into the lounge. He saw 3 of Grandma's neighbors sitting around the television set. They didn't seem to care much what was on. And there was Mr. Perkins sitting by the window, looking at the raindrops hitting the window pane. Miss Millie had a magazine opened on her lap, but she wasn't reading it. Mr. Crawford, the mailman, was sitting on a hassock, rubbing his feet. He looked as if he couldn't take another step. No one in the room was talking to or looking at each other, except Ms. Mary Lou and Mr. Bill Gutt. They were standing at the security guard's desk arguing very loudly. No one else was paying any attention to them. As Donovan walked closer, he could hear every word they said. "Ms. Mary Lou, this lounge will open or close when I say so," Mr. Bill Gutt said in a gruff voice. "Well, I'm telling you, Bill, that's a mistake. That should be decided by the people who live here," she answered back. "I'm the guard, and I say what goes on in this lounge," Mr. Bill Gutt bellowed. "Well, I live here, and I say that people who live here should set the time," Ms. Mary Lou said almost as loudly. Donovan looked from one to the other. They both began to shout at the same time, since neither one was listening to what the other one was saying. Donovan set his word jar on the corner of the desk and dug around inside the jar until he found a certain word. He tugged Miss Mary Lou's sleeve and then Mr. Bill's jacket. They both looked down surprised to see Donovan standing there. "I think the two of you need this word," Donovan said in a stern voice. They both looked at the yellow slip of paper in Donovan's hand. Miss Mary Lou giggled and Mr. Bill Gutt smiled. "Well, Mary Lou, what time do you think is a good time to open?" Mr. Bill Gutt asked, scratched his head. "Bill, I checked in with a couple of people and they suggested 10 o'clock. What do you think of that?" Ms. Mary Lou asked, smiling at Mr. Bill Gutt. Donovan let out a loud sigh of relief. He had come at just the right time. They needed the word compromise. So look at that. His word really came in handy to help these two compromise, which means come to an agreement. They might both have to give a little bit, but they need to work together. Compromise. Ms. Mary Lou and Mr. Bill weren't shouting anymore. They were talking to each other quietly. They were coming to an agreement. That sure made Donovan feel good. His word had been just what they needed. Donovan suddenly remembered that his father had asked him to invite Grandma to dinner. He ran back up to the elevator and pushed the up button. And that is the end of Chapter 9. So, maybe Grandma is on to something about sharing these words. We will have to continue reading to find out. All right, Mustangs, until next time.